Video needs to be where the work is done.
The Video at Work podcast.
Everything we do as consumer for the last decade, we do it with video.
Why don't we do it at work?
Hi, I'm Paul Sparta, Chairman and CEO of Vbrick Systems, and I've got Unmesh from Visa, who's head of streaming and security there, and we're here to talk about trends in enterprise video.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Paul, for having me.
We've worked for a while together, and one of the first questions that I had and thoughts was, what led you towards an enterprise video platform strategy a few years ago? What were the big drivers for that?
Yeah, I would say like 1 decade ago, right? People were talking about like video, but it was like a low resolution video. People were just relying on a collaboration platform, right? Any collaboration platform you're talking about, like people were just doing the recording and sharing those kind of like a recording across the multiple team members, right? And then we got like an interest more into like how we can distribute our message through the video. But the challenge that we have is we don't want to have a video meeting where I don't want participant to also like disrupt the audio, right? So we are talking about like how we can deliver the message in a one way, right? So that's why we came up with the idea. What about we come up with a live broadcast on a corporate world? Mm-hmm. So that was the first requirement. And the second requirement we are talking about, but what happened after that, right? So live broadcast happened, 50% of the user community joined, but what about the rest? So we talk about like how enterprise video platform can also help us to host those type of recording on a platform. So that's what we come up with the idea. Let's do the live broadcast and let's do the video on demand together. And the early days, we are relying only on on-prem system. Mm-hmm. Then the pandemic basically changed the entire game, right? The expectations were high. People were working from home. Again, then now you have to support the remote community as well as the user who are joining from the office as well. And that's how we have to shift the gear. And then coming from like on-prem is not going to help completely. Everything is going into the cloud. And then we are talking about like the cloud ecosystem and scalability or availability. Those are like a big concerns. So the shift for us is how we can again like solve the problem about like delivering the message to the employee, and not only for internal employee, but also the external user community.
Right. So it sounds like your journey is very similar to what we saw with a lot of our customers, where 5-6 years ago, it was a bit more tactical. We have one use case we want to solve for live streaming, or we want to solve for a video library or something like that. But there wasn't the sense that it was a strategic need to have a scalable platform, but it is now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at this way, right? Like on-prem stuff, you can scale at certain level, right? You're talking about like deployment time. You're talking about like a cost. You're talking about like do yourself deployment, because streaming is difficult, especially on a corporate land, right? So if you're talking about cloud, you can easily scale your platform. You can easily work with like a different integrators as well, just to like make your platform more better. And every single day, the user demand is unique, right? And you have to fill that gap, and you have to design the foundation in a way that the new requirement will always come, and how that new requirement will again fit into the video platform.
So that sort of validates the idea that the underlying architecture just has to be really strong in all these different places, both on the cloud side, on the content delivery side from the cloud, internally with dealing with the issues with different locations and corporate networks. It's pretty complex, and you've got global locations.
Yeah, and to be honest, like you made the right point, right? Like the foundation, that is very, very basic, but that is the most critical factor. If you don't have the good foundation at all, video workflow is not going to work, because video and streaming is hard, I understand, and putting that type of video workflow on a global scale is definitely a challenging, because you're talking about like how your video asset is basically protecting your own company.
Right.
Because everything that you talk about, right, it's not about like a specific company we are discussing, but any particular content that we are talking about, like running through the transcript, each and every sentence is basically a corporate data, right? So we usually see the data in a way, it's not only a text format, but video is technically a corporate data. So how we can going to protect that data and how we can deliver that data to the end user community?
Well, that's what we're seeing now. I think that people in our personal lives, we treat video as a document. And now that's really a theme that we're exploring a lot, which is that video really is a new document form. It has the same security requirements as a document. It may contain the same proprietary information, and that the security aspect of it's important, but also the engagement aspect. As you've used video and you've used it strategically, is the engagement and the employee message stronger using video than without?
Absolutely. I mean, like, look at this way, like even like during the pandemic, I think like that's where like the video pick up in the industry, but we were doing before the pandemic, right? Because we are talking about like video workflow, giving some kind of like a message to the employee. It's not about like the town hall message. It's about everything, right? You just wanted to send like one email communication to the employee. How you're going to save employees' timing as well. You're going to just like give like 30-page document, or what if you can just like summarize the overall document in like a shorter video as well. You can always go with like a longer video, no issues at all. But again, new technologies are coming, transcripts are coming, so you're also letting your user to decide whether to watch the whole video or just to summarize the video that you already prepared for them, right? Shorter videos are there. They can always generative AI we are talking about, right? I don't want to shift the gear, but generative AI is another topic, and utilizing the AI, they can just like summarize the overall video and just get the message within a minute rather than watching a 1 hour video.
I absolutely agree with that. And some people would say, well, why would you say that? Wouldn't you want them as a video company to watch more video? But the truth is that AI allows us to adapt the video format to whatever the purpose is. Some cases, I don't want to listen to, say, a whole earnings call or watch a whole earnings call. I want to read the transcript, and I may want to read it in my language. I may want to have it summarized for me so I can see what the key points are. Maybe I want to watch portions of it live. And this idea that video and the rest of corporate information is integrated together, I think is a big key trend, because otherwise, we also have this pressure of how much video is being generated now in the work environment, whether we know it or not, whether it's from people's mobile devices, all these new glasses that we are now seeing, the Ray-Ban and the Meta glasses, and the implications are pretty strategic, but it seems to be a shame if you don't utilize that video for its value and understand that anything that gets generated in the workplace is an asset of the organization.
Yeah, and to be honest, like you made a perfect point. Every single video that we usually create, it's all about how that video is genuine, right? Because the video assets are created a long time back. So you also need to tackle about like if the video got produced 5 years back, whether that video is still legit or whether that video is still in line with what your company is working for, right? How you're going to put some kind of like a retention policy as well. And utilizing the AI is definitely going to help, right? If you are going to put some kind of like a retention policy, that way you're just delivering the high quality content to the user as well. And the second thing I'm talking about is the video workflow in a corporate world. It's all about giving the message to the user in a shorter video.
And I think that was a really good point. I mentioned, how do you make video operate like a document? Well, the truth is you can't make a 1 hour video operate like a document. But where the AI comes in is by chapterizing it, by absolutely letting you interrogate it via natural language, by letting you be able to pull just the relevant portions and serve that up on a platter. That's how you make a 1 hour or a 2 hour, or even, it could be something that was filmed all day if it had to be. But if it's, I need these 30 seconds of value, you have to be able to extract that and use that, because that's what the user wants right then. And when you have that ability, it changes the whole perception of what a video asset is. It's not like, wow, I've got this 15 gigabyte file that's too much of a pain to move around. Now we can just go and get what we want and put it where we want. And how do you see, because once we have that capability, we can then actually put that content inside other work processes directly. And I think that's where we're going to see another big change, which is if you have some kind of a system, whether it's a CRM or an HR system or an ITSM type system, where we can now use the AI to grab all that information and put it directly into the context of a specific work event. So it would be no different than linking, here's all the PDFs and AI knowledge that's generated relative to this topic. Now we can get the video for it.
It's not only about CRM or ITSM, you name it, right? Your video is basically source of truth, right? The transcription, everything is happening because of the video recording that you are hosting on your platform. So all of this transcript, all of the video, that can be extracted utilizing the AI, and then that can be embedded into a multiple platform. So suppose ITSM platform is there, you're going to give like some kind of like a suggestion to the user, like, hey, I need to connect to XYZ machine, how I can do that, right? The service desk people usually talk about like, okay, here are the instructions, right? But that instruction is basically like 2-page document. So now everyone is talking about video. So how I can help that particular user, like, okay, here is a 1-minute video, just watch it. This is how you do it.
And when we see customers and organizations doing this, what happens is their self-service utilization goes way up, which lowers the number of human resources that are required and increases the productivity and the speed to resolution of these issues, because now I can get a video. We're all used to professionally produced video as a legacy mindset. But the fact is that there's so much video being generated ad hoc that has value. And to your point, we view the world as the enterprise video platform's job is to aggregate and be a central repository to process all of that stuff so that we can give what is required to the applications and the work processes that need it. But if you keep the video siloed all over the place, you can never extract the value out of it.
Yeah, and to be honest, that is the biggest problem in the industry right now. Every single video asset is very silo, is stored in a different workplace, right? So having a centralized repository definitely helping a corporate organization as well, right?
When you look at any kind of work issue, whether it's a Salesforce automation or an ITSM issue, and let's say it's an ITSM issue about some particular software defect or process, and when you look at what people actually want to do, they want to see, okay, here's all the different assets I have, document assets, video assets, portions of it where the problem might be solved. And you got to give the user the choice to decide, I can read the transcript of what that video, but I want to actually watch what they said and how they said it. I want the context of being able to go to the source material. Let the user decide, okay, I want to click and watch that, 30 seconds of critical information, or maybe I just need to read the context. And I think with all of the AI agents that are coming out, we need to take that information and give it to the AI agents in the central. The AI is playing together way better than I ever thought it would in the industry. And if you can collect all that AI, all that data from the video and get people to have that access to it, it just plays perfectly into the broader AI strategy, both of agents as well as centralized knowledge repositories.
Yeah, I think one of the word that I'm going to pick, click, number of clicks you say, right? So if you provide entire information in one single page, that would be the amazing job. So we are talking about not only the video or a chapters or subtitles or audio, a summary of the information, maybe some additional document that I wanted to again like show to the user into the same page. I'm talking about like embedding the content, right? So if I can just like provide all sort of information in one page, then you are going to save a lot of time to the end user because you're going to avoid the number of clicks. But number two is, and the major issue is, if you combine all of the information in one page, then you don't need to deal with the multiple security aspect. If you're going to host this type of information in other platform, now you are letting your user to go to the other platform. So it will increase the number of clicks, but on top of that is go to the authentication. They need to log into the platform. And guess what? What if they don't find the information? That is a big deal.
The best scenario is a world where I have one harmonized security and data ownership concept. I go to that one AI system for help. I I ask my problem, or it knows that I'm in a certain workflow. And all of the assets, whether it's video or from some other system or some other information that's generated, is there in one reasonably curated fashion, then you're only into that 1 or 2 clicks and you're where you need to be without having to worry about, oh, now I have to jump off, log into another system, go find it. Every system architecturally, I think, that integrates, it should integrate with an AI system in such a way as it basically is saying, here are all my assets. I'm giving you the keys to everything that I have over here. I'm harmonizing with your security. Now you can use what I do any way you want to. I think that's kind of a cool end state that we're coming up to.
Yeah, to be honest, you made a right point. Utilizing the AI is not about like just providing the feature. If you talk about like impact, like I mentioned, like you're talking about like 1 day of like a human effort into a couple of seconds. We usually measure the output in terms of how I'm going to save user time, how I'm going to boost the productivity. And it's also about like how I'm going to save some time from the end user side where the impact will be so huge, right? For an example, if I'm talking about like having a multiple audio into the single video frame rather than recording 5 different videos in 5 different native speaking language, you're talking about video creation workflow. So you're investing in that. You're talking about like deployment cost. You're talking about storage cost. You're talking about like delivering those filings to the end user. And then end user need to pick, okay, maybe I will go with English or maybe Spanish or maybe Portuguese, right? So those type of workflow can be easily ingested using the AI, and then it should be the ecosystem.
We did, and it's funny when you say that, in an industrial context, we did a demonstration for a company at one point where they asked us, well, where we want to get video into the maintenance, into the assembly line for maintenance, and we have certain vendors that provide a lot of the stuff in our assembly line, but we're not sure like where that video is or how that works or what the value is. They just hadn't thought that it was really feasible, except in very specific cases. And all we did was say, well, give us the names of 3 vendors. We took 3 or 4 vendor names. These are big industrial robot manufacturers, those sorts of things. And we ingested only their public video, and it took us a few hours overnight to run a script just to investigate this stuff. And we said, we believe you use all of this stuff. Overnight, it ended up getting tagged to all of with the AI. And they were just like blown away that like, hey, I have a problem with this particular, robot spot welding system. And suddenly all of the assets, and they said, we didn't even know, they're our vendor, we didn't know they had all those videos that was available. And that's something that is a real light bulb moment, is that once you start aggregating the video and the AI starts saying, hey, here's actually all the knowledge you have, they don't realize how much knowledge they actually have about so many things that just sort of organically happens. And our piece happens to get captured in video, it gets captured in conference calls, it gets captured from the vast amount of video that every large enterprise vendor community produces.
Metadata tagging is really crucial and it's very important for end user community. But on top of that, it's also helping the content creator. Because behind the scene, when people record one video, there will be a multiple retakes, right? So how the content creator can identify whether the second retake or fourth retake with the specific line or a specific keyword, that was important. So I think the metadata tagging is definitely important. And if you go back to the decade again, and again, I'm going to just like referencing 10 years back every single time. But the idea was completely different. Like the content creator and the end user had to just put the tags manually for each and every video. Now you are talking about like hosting thousands of video. And can you just imagine if there is no AI, how you're going to tag all of the video?
Oh yeah, just absolutely impossible in the old days. And then you're having to build manual taxonomies to understand what's important. And it just becomes, it's just way too manpower intensive back in the day. And now, of course, we also have AI-generated content, automated content generation of various different flavors. We've seen some really cool vendors show up that are producing technologies to convert text to AI. We've seen some stuff that's sort of AI avatars of real people that can do that. But we've also seen generated animations, generated imagery, and now we have a choice for users to determine what is the best way to get across a given message. So even on the content creation side, AI has a huge impact. And from, I think, the perspective of the enterprise video platform, I often tell people we are like a combined bus and airport transport and train system, where the trains, planes, and automobiles are the content. Our job is to orchestrate, make available, make it everything flow.
Yeah, and to be honest, you made the right point. It's all about like ecosystem, right? Like, so if all of the features are ingesting in one ecosystem, it's a perfect and first class experience to the end user.
Yeah, and we can't dictate to organizations what applications and business logic and processes they're going to have. That's kind of impossible. But if it's architected properly, you can make your assets available with the right context to all of those things. And that's really our vision as well.
Yeah, and to be honest, you made a perfect point again, right? Like, think about this way. You're just going to create a capsule, and then you're just going to have 10 different doors that is open. Maybe one door is good for financial services. The other door is good for maybe the consumer, or the third door will be good for the product companies as well, right? So as long as that capsule is going to just work for every single ecosystem, that's the beauty of the basic architecture.
Yeah, I agree with you. And one of the things that's also come up as a point, and it's interesting because we were talking about security and how important security is now from an enterprise perspective. Since we can generate all this video so easily, it does raise the specter of deep fakes and content authenticity, and that's a very different type of security concern than we've seen in the past. So from a security strategy perspective, how are you seeing that play out?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, the deepfake, right, is a very hot topic in the industry, and I still find there are a number of challenges just to identifying the deepfake content, right? But the basic principle that you have to identify the source, if your source is original or not, right? So how you can maybe do watermarking, for an example, right? Back in the days, we are talking about like someone just like creating an image and people were just putting some watermark, and that's how they were basically saying like, okay, this is my authenticate content, right? So now if you're talking about like a video, how you're going to protect your asset by not taking a screenshot, for an example. Number one. Number two is how you're going to protect your asset in a way that is coming from your own employee, is not someone is going to share that one. And the third one you're talking about is how you're going to make sure that your video system is so protected that no one is also hijacking your stream as well. So watermarking is a good example, or content credentials is a good example. But I think the industry still need to figure it out how they are going to detect the AI generated video, because that is really important. And we are talking about the avatar base that you mentioned, right? Like a lot of companies, they are creating and giving the platform to the user how to create the avatar base. So if you see in the corporate side, you're seeing two different challenges. One way, we are also increasing the productivity by allowing a user to create the avatar based video. But at the same time, you also need to protect those avatar-based video and not giving the negative message to the user community.
Right.
So you have to keep that balance, basically.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that is also paradoxical when people hear it is sometimes AI-generated content is authentic. In many cases, it is. We want it to be authentic. Sometimes, and it's really about who is the source. And we participate in this Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity, which is a inter-industry working group with all the big names. I think Adobe started it. They're clearly very strong in the content world for many, many years as a global leader. But everybody really participates in that, and that's creating the watermarking standards. And for video, it's very difficult because you have frame by frame, and it's very tricky. But when you try to look at just any given asset itself, it is tricky because it is a bit of a space race between those who are trying to fake versus those who are trying to detect faking and where it can go. And I think one of the things that we're trying to do, and you mentioned it, and we're doing with an initiative that we're calling Verified Authentic, is to flip the script and focus on how do I verify the authenticity of the source so that I know I don't need to detect it. I give the benefit of the doubt to the source that if it's this company and I know for certain it's from them, then I can trust that content to a reasonable degree and ignore any content that's from any other source. And we think that is going to be an approach that's going to be critically important because the volume of content, the mass of content is only just getting bigger and bigger. I feel like there's a tsunami of content coming, and if you can't pick out the sources that you want and know that those are authentic, it could be easy to get overwhelmed.
Yeah, and I think you made it's a very critical point because back in the days you see like there are only 10 people who are producing the content and there are millions of people who are watching the content because it was all television and broadcast, right? Right now, millions of users is already having the technology. They are having a cell phone. They are already having a content creator platform. They can just like create a massive amount of content and you still have the millions user who is going to watch it. So now the ratio is 1:1. So how you're going to make sure that your video is super protected, number one, but authenticity is super critical. And I see that industry is definitely making some progress. I also wanted to see the industry like how they can detect frame by frame, because you mentioned, right, like video is all about the frame. So it's kind of like an image, right? So how you are going to make sure that your each and every frame is secure through the proper encryption, but at the same time, identifying the source of truth.
Well, and if you do encrypt video on a frame-by-frame basis, and you look at what that would cost computationally and storage-wise at 4K, suddenly you're taking what is already a large format and you're exploding it in order to get an encrypted watermark to work. And I think that's why the source authenticity and the system security is the way to flip the script, and to know these are for my organization, these are the 100 entities that I can be sure when I get information from them, it is actually their information and they're controlling that. And similarly, to your point on video, it hangs around.
Yep.
Every document we read usually has a date on it, but video kind of hangs around and you don't know. And version control and timing, organizations giving them the authenticity control to say this is not just authentic, but it's current, and giving that the ability to give reliability to the end user that says, if my organization is reading your organization's data, but I have some sort of authenticity verification going on, then I know it's fresh, it's current, and it's explicitly stuff that you're authorizing me to see.
Yeah.
And then I can cut the rest of the noise out. I don't have to worry because I'm only going to listen to you.
Yeah, and I think like I see in the past, right, like all of the authenticity and the video frame we are talking about it just in the Hollywood movies before the decade, right? Like, okay, someone is basically just like recording something and then the investigator usually find out whether that video is authentic or not. So like having this type of workflow to the end user community and just giving that type of flexibility just to detect the content, I think it would be a good move.
Yeah, I think it makes the problem much easier, particularly for organizations. As individuals, we can look out and say, oh, that was a Taylor Swift deep fake video. It doesn't really matter. There's no implications for that. But if it's actually something that relates to a real work process where real human beings are impacted and there's a value and work associated with it, you just can't take that risk. You have to have a mechanism.
Yeah, and I think if we go back to the very basic principle, right, like any particular cloud provider, they just need to understand three different basic principles: the source, the destination, and the road, right? So as long as your tunnel is secure and your source door and destination door is secure, then you are good. But make sure that your tunnel is secure. And that's why the AI will come in. And it's not about like only the session hijacking. We are talking about like the source will be your culprit, because you really don't know whether your source is actually the source or not, right? So how you're going to make sure that this video is coming from the original content creator?
that's a big problem that I believe we have a very good solution for that we'll be launching later this year. And I think utilizing it's a perfect broad use case for utilizing high performance blockchain capability. The immutability of blockchain identity means it's essentially tamper-proof. So I think it's a perfect utilization to help verify authenticity of sources, because by publishing it there, you're not giving the source control to any given entity to manipulate. Once that's there, that is the record, and it's immutable. And it is tied into some of the deeper theoretical questions of how to identify the fundamental source, meaning how do I know that NBC.com is actually NBC? And right now we have a trust model for that, and we have some identity verification processes. I think once everything, that's the root of everything, is identity verification, fundamental entity identification, and then everything really flows from there. But then it's locking it down.
I think in the old days, people were talking about like, if I need to deliver one letter to the destination, right? I was also always worried whether the destination address is correct or not, whether my letter is going to the right person or not, because that was the concern. And when we are talking about like email security, we are talking about the same thing, right? Whether my email is going into the right destination or not. Then another thing came up with the phishing attack and everything. Now we really don't know whether that email is coming from the original source. And now we are talking about video and AI. That's the problem. So if you see the journey, we are talking about like destination was a concern, but now the source is a concern.
Right. And detection of an invalid source. So your point on email is very well taken. We have to do detection. That's part of our problem, which is it the right source? But the other part of the solution, and this is, from a video perspective, is it's whitelisting.
Yep.
If I can verify identities and whitelist, then I know those are good. And so at least I always have a safe space of whitelisted content or whitelisted email, even if you take that email analogy. So I think that's really well taken. And there's no one solution. You have to do all of these things, and you have to do them at scale kind of consistently.
Yeah, because even like if you're putting a watermarking and if you're still doing the validation, but what if that original content is going out and someone basically manipulate that content again? So you have to make sure that your signature is already inside the video. So whenever you're distributing the content to other people, even though someone basically hijacked the video, then the other person know that, okay, even though this video coming from the source, but I think there is still a little bit of gap, I still see a little bit of like a weird pattern, right?
Yeah, no, that is actually a really great point you made, because if I take a video asset and it's properly watermarked, and I take that asset and I copy it verbatim, it's an exact copy, but I put it to an unauthorized distribution source, it's still unauthorized. We have to assume that it may be tampered with, because it's coming from the wrong source. And I think that's how you have to be able to look and protect to that, to say, there's only certain authorized sources for this content. Otherwise, it might be valid, but you don't know. So we have to assume that it's not.
And to be honest, the fantastic idea is, imagine this way, like initially you're talking about like creating a content. So authorized user was creating a content, and distribution was happening only to your internal community. So that means they are also like authenticate through the trusted partner or through the trusted platform. So end to end is good. But now the video is getting so popular that you also wanted to distribute the video to the public sector. So now you also need to ensure that the source is basically the reliable, because now the destination is public. So anyone can come in and anyone can just like watch the video. So technically the other door is not secure anymore, it's open. So you have to make sure that the one-way video traffic is coming to the public sector is super genuine.
Right. And that's also why the source is important, because the human, the bad actor, is still always the most vulnerable thing. Anyone who is a bad actor and who's abusing their password or stealing information or stealing content or distributing it improperly, if you can understand who the source is, you at least immediately know that if somebody extracted, a video or a document even from another organization and put it out on a public other source, you would at least know this document shouldn't be coming from anywhere other than here. So you do have an assumption that something's not quite right if we're seeing this outside of its authorized environment.
Yeah, and I think like maybe the recommendation to the industry is like very simple. Like think about like attacker, right? Like if you just think like, okay, even like if I'm preparing one solution, what if, right? Like you just need to again like create that phrase and see, what if my videos got released, or what if someone basically hijacked the session? What if someone basically create some kind of like a malware when I'm transferring the video or any kind of like a text-based data to the other destination? How the hijacker basically can just like hijack my stream or a video content. So you have to protect. So my recommendation to the industry is very simple. Think like an attacker.
I agree with you there. It's big implications, and I think to grow the enterprise video platform space and to grow utilization of video, it's incumbent on us to have that mindset of security as paramount going forward with everything. And I think the three different areas you're talking about are absolutely correct there.
Yeah.
Unmesh, has been a great conversation, and I think for video in the enterprise and video for organizations, we're just at the beginning of a giant change of video being everywhere. And we're to your point, we learned how to manage paper mail as a society. We learned over hundreds of years how to manage documents and various things, and now we have this world of unlimited content creators with unlimited ability to produce things, and we have all that value out there and all that risk, and it's going to create risk and a massive amount of opportunity and value. So it's just great to be able to work with you and to know that we're on this kind of complex journey together.
Yeah, no, thank you so much again, Paul. And I think like maybe I will also conclude the session. I will repeat the my favorite quote, right? Like information is the power and privacy is paramount. So just protect it. And video is information. So protect your asset.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much again.
Thank you so much, Paul.